mode.
Good morning, and welcome to the formal meeting of the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors for May 20th, 2026. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Supervisor Stewart.
Here.
Supervisor Galvin.
Here.
Vice Chair Lesko. Here. Supervisor Gallardo.
Here.
Chair Brophy McGee.
Here.
Thank you.
Board of Supervisors consent agenda items 13 through 96. Supervisors, do any of you have an item you would wish to remove from 13 through 96?
Madam Chair, I would like to pull item 45 from the consent agenda.
All right. Any other items? So if I get my numbers right, Madam Vice Chair, may we have a motion on items 13 through 44 and 46 through 96?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve items 13 through 44 and 46 through 96.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes unanimously. We will now move for separate consideration to item number 45, which is the Maricopa County Recorder's Office budget adjustment. Is there, Supervisor Gallardo, do you have some opening comments, sir?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and fellow supervisors. This is an item I know has been debated quite a lot in terms of how we move forward, but it comes with difficult times right now, Madam Chair. We are dealing with an office that has been very difficult to work with. Let's be blunt and honest. I've been here 10 years, over 10 years now. I've worked with several county recorders, starting back in '88. I was working with Keith Politas, Helen Purcell, Adrian Fontes, Stephen Richards, and now Mr. Justin Heap. And I don't think I've ever seen a more difficult time between the relationship between this board and the county recorder's office. I'm not trying to be partisan here at all, guys. I'm not trying to be partisan. I'm being factual here. This is fact. It has been almost a year and a half since Mr. Heap has taken office. It has been an ongoing struggle to collaborate with his office, to work together. I understand the importance of this office, Madam Chair. I served there. I started my adult career in this area. I spent 14 years in Maricopa County Elections Department before moving on and doing other stuff. I understand the importance of it. I understand the relationship both the board and the recorder's office has. I was here when we rewrote the agreement between the recorders and this board. It was during the term with Adrian Fontes. It was ongoing discussions and compromise. But that's not what we're seeing, Madam Chair. We're not seeing that from Mr. Heap. We're not seeing any coming down and really negotiating and working together in a true faith tradition, as we've seen with other county recorders. Half the time, Madam Chair, I can't even take his word on many of the stuff he says. Since day one, he has put out false statements. He has not been truthful with this board. I just have some strong doubt of his ability to carry out the 2026 election. I have some doubt of him wanting to truly have a successful election. I think there's a thought in my mind that perhaps maybe he wants it to fail. I don't know. I hope he doesn't. But it has been difficult, more difficult than any before. And I know we passed this. We passed our, I think, our resolution a few weeks ago, a couple months ago, and I was very supportive of that, thinking we're going to be able to work together. We're going to be able to hopefully start collaborating more, being able to work together to identify some of the tasks, and it's just led from that to lawsuits and everything else. We're still in the courts. But nonetheless, I have very strong doubts on his ability to carry out this office. We're dealing with public funds here, and I'm not too sure exactly what he's going to do with this money. But nonetheless, I just cannot, in full faith, be able to spend taxpayer dollars in a way where I have no confidence in the ability of the county recorder right now. Like I said, I'm not trying to be partisan. I've worked with majority Republican county recorders and had great working relationships. We didn't always agree, but we worked very well together. This is a tough one, and it's hard for me to swallow. So, Madam Chair, I will not be supporting this motion at this time. I think we need to be able to really have a stronger discussion and confidence in the recorder, which we have not seen. Again, I can't even take his word for anything he says. He has a reputation so far with me, at least, of not being very truthful and honest, has put out definite lies on me, saying that I said stuff that I never said. So it is very difficult for me to be able to support the motion in front of us. I just have to do it in the best interest of taxpayers and the people of Maricopa County, and I will be opposing item 45.
Thank you, Supervisor Gallardo. I know Supervisor Stewart, you had also asked that this item be removed from consent. Do you have any comments?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. This is not, I guess, a review of the process that's going forward or what's happened or what may happen in the future. It's about trying to get to a place where an agreement, I think, that we made about supporting the recorder's IT staff requests and moving funding from essentially one bucket to another under his budget in order for those to be funded within his P&L. And for that reason, I don't want to bring everything into this particular discussion, but this is something that I think we'd agreed on, and we're going to move forward with here today, hopefully, so that we can fund this correctly, as we had all agreed to do. I appreciate the time, Madam Chair, and I'll wait for the vote.
Thank you. Supervisor Lesko.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe the Board of Supervisors and Recorder Heap share the same goal of election integrity and running smooth and fair elections. I call on Recorder Heap to join us in structured meetings to work out our differences. In the past, Recorder Heap has said he is willing to do so. He wants to do so. Judge Blaney, in his ruling, said he wants us to work this out. So I call on Recorder Heap to join us in meetings to work out our differences for the benefit of the voters and election integrity. This item, if we approve it, increases funding to the Recorder's office. I will be supporting it because we have already voted in a resolution in the past to give him more IT workers, which he has asked for. So again, I call on Recorder Heap to join us in structured meetings that may be open to the public or publicly recorded so that the voters know and we have transparency. Thank you.
And thank you for your comments. I've been in public service a long time, and I can tell you that you don't get to pick who the voters send you, but you are required by virtue of your office to work with them. And that goes both ways, both for the recorder and for the Board of Supervisors. I understand the comments that have been made from every angle, and I appreciate the frankness and the honesty in which they've been delivered, and we will move forward, because at the end of the day, our goal as the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors is open, honest, transparent elections that are properly and fairly conducted, period, end of story. And it's not about political agendas. So with that, Madam Vice Chair, is there a motion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that we approve item number 45.
Second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, may I please have a roll call vote?
Yes. Supervisor Stewart.
Aye.
Supervisor Galvin.
Aye.
Vice Chair Lesko.
Aye.
Supervisor Gallardo.
I vote a resounding no.
Chair Brophy McGee.
As chair of this board, and for no other reason, I vote aye. Thank you, board members. We will now proceed to the Board of Supervisors addendum. Item number 97. I am seeking a motion to recess this meeting and go into executive session for the purpose of obtaining legal advice. Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that we go into executive session for item number 97.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor will say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that vote was unanimous. What we will do is, I'm looking at the clock, we will,
I was waiting. Aye.
oh, I thought you said aye.
No. I missed.
Oh,
We're
okay,
good.
but you're going to have
Thank
your,
you, Madam Chair.
you're going to have your own executive session. So before we proceed with public comment, I wanted to remind those present who will be speaking of our rules of decorum. Those present who will be speaking of our rules of decorum in order to follow orderly procedures for conducting business. We do very much want to hear from you. We want to know what you have to say, but we must maintain order during public testimony on any agenda item, and the following rules may be enforced. Attendees shall remain seated during an open meeting to minimize distractions to the board or other attendees unless you're called upon by the chair to address the board or if leaving the meeting room. No person attending an open meeting shall engage in disorderly or boisterous conduct, including but not limited to applause, whistling, stamping of feet, booing, or making any loud, threatening, profane, abusive, personal, impertinent, or slanderous utterance that disturbs, disrupts, or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of the meeting. We also request that you not disparage what other speakers have said. They are entitled to their point of view. You are entitled to yours. Please state your point of view. We do not allow signs of placards or other items in the audience during public meetings, again, for proper and orderly decorum. So with that, With that in mind, my plan is for us to return, I hope by 11:15, earlier if at all possible.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Will I get a briefing on your meeting after you guys are completed, or will it happen here?
It will be, as usual, sir, upstairs, similar to what occurred on Monday.
Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. And thank you all for your patience. We're in executive session, and that was item number 97. What we are going to do, there is still one supervisor who will be joining us shortly. So what we will commence with is public comment. And again, I thank everyone who has public comment for staying.
I'm looking at, this is item for public comment. If I read it right from my glass fog, number 106, and you did go out for a meeting on item 97, but when we came back, I didn't think that all those numbers in between were on consent. We didn't talk about it, any one of them. We need to be able to be precise when we talk to each other. That's a matter of, just like in a contract, you're talking across the table. You want to be able to put your point there, and they get their point back. We need to be adults in here and put our adult pants on and try to be able to keep that communication between we the people and those that we put into office. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And to respond, and Brooke, I will be careful, to Mr. Pickerel, if I did not explain more completely, we omitted those agenda items because we still have one board member out who is receiving legal advice. And when we finish with public comments, we will return to those agenda items. So very much apologize for not making that clear. Thank you. Madam Clerk, could we please proceed? The IGA between Maricopa County Stadium District and Maricopa County Treasurer's Office. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Hearing no further discussion, we will proceed to a vote. All those in favor of items 98 and 99 will say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Both motions pass unanimously. Board members are welcome to comment if you so wish, or we can recess until 1 o'clock.
This recess.
Yeah, I think we're evented out. So thank you for your patience, board members. I will now recess the regular board meeting, the formal board meeting, until 1 p.m.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I'm reconvening the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors formal marathon board meeting of May 20th, 2026 to discuss and take possible action on the final agenda item, 97, adoption of resolution for the 2026 primary election. Board members should have in their packets the amended language that was recited by the clerk or distributed by the clerk earlier. This resolution is intended to provide certainty to voters who will participate in the July 21st primary. And I will have Madam Clerk read the resolution shortly. I would like to point out that I had invited Recorder Heap to appear at this meeting voluntarily. He was invited by an email from me and also by a direct phone call from me. And I invited him to come over and answer questions in relation to a very florid letter we received from Mr. Heap's lawyer, James Rogers, early this morning. But let's start with the resolution. Madam Clerk, will you please read the resolution, including the amended language?
Madam Chair. Yes, I don't have the hard copy in front of me, but I have opened up what's attached to the agenda item.
Thank you.
I will read the resolution. Vote Center and Dropbox, the resolution for the 2026 primary. Excuse me. Whereas ARS 16-411B4 grants the Board of Supervisors authority to authorize the use of voting centers on Election Day in place of or in addition to specifically designated polling places places. And whereas ARS 16-411B5 grants the Board of Supervisors authority to authorize the use of emergency voting centers to be used on specific days and times for a specific election. Now therefore be it resolved that the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors adopts vote centers resolution for the following purposes. Authorizing the use of voting centers for the 2026 primary election. The list of voting locations is included in Exhibit A. And number 2, authorizing the use of emergency centers for the 2026 primary election with days and hours of operation as included in Exhibit B. Number 3, authorizing the use of secure drop boxes for the primary election. The list of drop boxes is included in Exhibit C. Be it further resolved that the Director of the Elections Department is authorized to sign and approve facility use agreements. In addition, if a voter center or secure drop box established pursuant to this resolution becomes unavailable and there is not sufficient time for the Board of Supervisors to convene to approve an alternate location for that voting location, the Director of the Elections Department is authorized to make changes to the approved vote center location or drop box location and shall notify the public and the Board of Supervisors regarding the change as soon as practical. The alternate voting locations shall be as close in proximity to the approved voting locations as possible. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And I would like to point out that this resolution, which has come under fire, is specific to Election Day and emergency voting sites and drop boxes, which are within the board's authority. Vice Chair Lesko, do you have some context to add, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's important to point out to the other board members and to the public what has transpired. Today, right before this meeting, we received a letter from James Rogers, who is the attorney for Recorder Heap, and it was quite threatening. But part of it was on page 4 of his letter titled Criminal Liability under ARS 16-1005. And parts of it I want to quote. It says, if the board establishes drop boxes during early voting without statutory authority to do so, and I'm going to fast forward because there's a lot of legal mumbo-jumbo, it says any person or entity involved in establishing or operating such unauthorized drop boxes is committing a Class 5 felony. It goes on page 5 of the letter from James Rogers to say, board employees who collect ballots at drop boxes established without the recorder's legal authority are not acting within the scope of lawful official duties because the drop boxes themselves have not been lawfully established. Such employees, therefore, do not fall within the statutory exception, and they are committing criminal ballot harvesting under subsection H. And I had talked to our elections director and our deputy county manager, and they said this could include temporary election employees that are merely picking up the ballots. These are people that could get paid $18, $20 an hour. And so it sounds like that the lawyer in this letter is threatening to criminally charge temporary election workers for merely doing their duty. And my understanding is this would be a bipartisan team. It's different political parties, and one person would be from the recorder's office, and the other would be from the elections department. And I believe that was worked out in advance. But yet, at the last hour, we seem to get this threatening letter from the attorney of Recorder Heap. Now, if Recorder Heap had been here, as the chairman had asked him to be here, I would ask him certain questions. And one of the questions I would like to ask Recorder Heap is I wanted to ask him if he agreed with everything in this letter that was written by his attorney. And I wanted to know if he specifically wants to and is going to pursue criminal prosecutions, or referring for criminal prosecutions against temporary election workers who are merely doing their job. But I guess I can't ask him that because he didn't show up as we have invited him.
And thank you, Vice Chair. To that point, I did call Recorder Heap, just to reiterate. I also sent him a simultaneous email around noon today, asking him to appear here at 1 o'clock. He's right up, a few floors up above in this building, to share his side of things. I know he's in the office today, but he is making the choice not to appear. So all we have is what is in his letter and what we have heard over the past few weeks. Supervisor Galvin?
Madam Chair, thank you so much, and thank you for that information you provided. Asking the recorder, who's one of our election officials, to come down here in response to a letter that we received this morning from his attorney with the astounding news that he might pursue criminal charges against volunteers and workers who make elections in Maricopa County great. Recorder Heap keeps changing his positions and going back in agreements that's making it impossible to coordinate because state law mandates that the Board of Supervisors coordinate with the recorder's office. So I would like, Madam Chair, to provide a short timeline of communications and ask Mr. Heap to comment on it. I was hoping he could comment on it today because, as I heard, he's right upstairs. In just the past 2 weeks, we have received several communications from Recorder Heap or his attorney detailing the rules that they are demanding that we follow for the 2026 election cycle. On May 6th of this month, Mr. Heap wrote to our county manager to say that we cannot communicate with the recorder staff. I have never heard of a policy like that before, and I don't know how that would be helpful to the voters. On May 18th, Mr. Heap's attorney threatened to sanction us and hold us in contempt for run-of-the-mill elections operations issues that are always coordinated and worked out between staff at the recorder's office and the Board of Supervisors Elections Department. On May 19th, Mr. Heap wrote to our county manager to say that we cannot get legal advice from the county attorney. County attorney is the attorney for the taxpayer. We are elected by the taxpayers. Mr. Heap is elected by the taxpayers. But apparently we cannot go to the county attorney to get our own legal advice, according to this gentleman. And on May 20th, today, Mr. Heap's attorney wrote to say that if we accept ballots from voters in the way that we always have, we and our staff will be prosecuted for felonies. This is not the first time that the Board of Supervisors have been threatened with criminal action, but this is the first time that I can recall of our own employees and volunteers being threatened with criminal penalties, not only in Maricopa County, but in Arizona and the United States of America. This is shocking and appalling. Recorder Heap, my question to you, sir, given how integrated our election system is and should be and has been designed, and the separation of duties under Arizona law, and despite your refusal to come downstairs to answer for this letter that your attorney sent this morning at the 11th hour, how do you expect us to run an election under these rules? My concern, Madam Chair, is what voters will experience. They are the #1 most paramount priority for all of us. The voters' experience must be optimal. by trying to hamstring this board for political reasons and gamesmanship, by trying to block us from approving voting locations and then Dropbox locations. The recorder is effectively taking away access to voters. His goal here is to punish the voters. You are making it harder, Mr. Heap, for registered voters to cast a ballot, and you've been doing it now on a daily basis, culminating in today's egregious actions. This cannot stand, and I don't expect this board to sit by and let it happen. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And Supervisor Gallardo, comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've said this once, I'll say it again over and over again. We're working with the county recorder like never before. We have a county recorder who is totally out of touch with his office, county recorder that is just plain out incompetent. This guy, and keep in mind, Madam Chair, this is a vote that is taken place by this board before every election. This is something new. We do this every election. I started my career in 1988, and the Board of Supervisors have always taken this vote to establish the vote centers, or back then it was polling places. Now we have a county recorder at the 11th hour sends us this threatening letter, and then doesn't have the courage to come out and defend it or try to answer basic questions by the members of the supervisor. He's just being a coward, just a straight-up coward, to be able to threaten us and volunteers of a felony and then not want to come in front and to try to explain or listen to some of the concerns just shows you how incompetent he is. He doesn't know what he's doing. He is purposely trying to corrupt this election, purposely trying to compromise it, compromise the integrity, keeping people from actually casting the most fundamental right they have, the right to vote. This is what he's doing. He's purposely wanting to do this. He wants the 2026 election to fail, and he's doing everything he can to do it. He's surrounded by folks that have no idea what they're doing, never ran an election. All they do is tweet out negative comments about our democracy and the board, just negative comments over and over and over. But yet they want to send out this really poorly drafted letter by an attorney. I don't even know why he's even a member of the bar, but he's put out this letter that's very threatening and not wanting to come and try to answer basic questions. This is what we're dealing with. And Madam Chair, I dealt with Keith Politis, I dealt with Helen Purcell, I dealt with Adrian Fontes, Stephen Richards, never with a recorder like we're doing now. Never. It's always been a cooperative effort. It's always been a joint effort in order to make sure our elections are smooth and safe and transparent. But we now have a county recorder right now who's doing everything he can to compromise this election. He's doing everything he can to make it harder for people to vote. He's making it even harder for people who want to volunteer or even work on our election. Citizens, as Supervisor Lesko said, it's Republicans, Democrats, it's independent. This is a citizen-driven process. And he's making it more difficult by threatening that they're going to go after him as a felon. That's what he's doing. Madam Chair, it is so frustrating to see the type of action this county recorder and the people around him that really have no idea what they're doing. No idea. Totally incompetent. And now he has just proven once again to me he's a big coward. This is very frustrating, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Supervisor Stewart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, trying to get back to what we're here for, which is the resolution about what I think is essentially three things, right? It's about emergency vote centers, it's about voting centers on day of election, and it's about drop boxes. So I have a few questions and then maybe a comment. So as I understand it, the elections team and recorder work together to talk about some of the early drop box locations, which end up becoming day of voting location drop boxes. We get to, mid last week, when I first heard about this resolution, we had an exec session on Monday about this resolution. We changed some language around. I appreciate the support of the attorney that's representing me, Steve, on clarifying a few things. When was the first time, Madam Chair, that you reached out to the recorder about this resolution?
About the resolution on today's agenda, Mr. Stewart?
Yes, ma'am.
I reached out to him around noon.
Okay, so
And about the letter, but also to come and testify related to the agenda item number 97, which was the subject of the letter.
Right.
And these outlandish accusations that if we even consider this, we're felons.
And to that point, Madam Chair, I believe, to answer Mr. Stewart's question, that our staff and the recorder staff have been working hand in glove on this issue, so the recorder has been well aware for quite a while for this, so this resolution and its drafting is not a surprise to him or his office.
Well, thank you for that. And Madam Chair, to address your point, I'll get back to Supervisor Galvin's point. Unfortunately, putting together a policy like this, and we've talked a lot about collaboration. It was actually mentioned this morning before we went into a recess about let's work together and let's collaborate. From what I hear and from what I understand, an hour's notice to meet in front of the board, and then the first time hearing about the resolution formally was today, is not necessarily collaboration with what the recorder believes is his statutory authority to decide where the vote centers are. And to your point, Supervisor Galvin, you're absolutely right, and I addressed that when I first opened this conversation, is that the recorder has been communicating, and his team has been communicating with the elections team to locate and to find places for these drop boxes. What is new to the recorder and what was new to me and new to all of us until last week was a resolution binding this. Now here's the caveat. The resolution is not a bad thing, and if we can get back to this without all the arrows being pointed at one another, I get the letter from his attorney is rough. It's not really the best way to do business, but I believe a phone call late or early last week from the chairman to the recorder to say, hey, we're putting together a resolution so that we can move forward on behalf of the voters, which we're all here for, would have put this to bed before it ever got here. And I'll tell you one other thing is that I had a conversation with the recorder last night. I had 24 hours from the time this hit exec session to when we got to here at 9:30 this morning to have a conversation about him. You know what I found out in that conversation? He's fine with one. He's fine with two. He just wants to be able to have some say and approval in where the early voting locations go because in his mind, the statute gives him the authority to approve those things. Now, all of that could have been solved with a simple phone call. And I know that some people are going to say we reached out to their team, they haven't returned phone calls. We've done some. Everybody's got to get better. And so as I've been from the very beginning, we have got to be focused on solutions, and it's just deteriorating further. And that's why I have my own attorney. It's because I don't agree with the way that the board has handled this. I don't agree with the way the recorder has handled this, and I'm sitting on the outside having to have separate meetings with separate people to find out what you guys are talking about, to find out what they're talking about, and it all goes back to 2024, pulling every single thing from the recorder from a previous election that, from what everybody in this room said was a well-run election. I still don't understand why that was pulled, and I don't want to add that to this.
To that point,
I'm still
Chairman,
speaking. I'm still speaking.
because
Supervisor Galvin,
making a point here.
We've all made our points.
To that point, Mr. Galvin.
Okay, the 2024 SSA agreement, Mr. Stewart, which you have been gaslighting about for 2 years, was clearly about insults.
Mr. Stewart, Mr. Galvin, that was not a to that point, but you may follow.
Okay, you have
Mr.
to stop.
Stewart, please complete your comments.
Mr. Stewart has to stop misrepresenting the facts of the 2024 SSA. Only 2 supervisors were here, know how it worked, know how it happened, know how it went down, know how it was negotiated for 2 years. It's been told to Mr. Stewart over and over again, but he keeps carrying water for a guy who's now threatening to arrest and have ballot workers and volunteers criminally arrested. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Stewart, complete your comments and direct them to agenda item number 97, not revisionist history.
Madam Chair, in fairness, nobody's been directing it to item 97 from the the 3 people that have spoke so far, but I will respect your request. I wish you would have delivered that request to the other board members. Guys, here's the deal. A phone call, which I've had a number of phone calls with the recorder, can solve a lot of these problems. And so the taxpayer expects us to come to resolution. I get that this resolution solves some of the operational challenges that we have. And as I mentioned before, the recorder is comfortable with 1, he's comfortable with 2. He just wants to have some authority to collaborate. He wants to have some authority to collaborate with you, Madam Chair, and as well as the staff on the final adoption of those voting locations. So I'll sum it up with this, and then I've got one more comment. The timeline at which this was presented to the recorder as a resolution, and understanding all of the consternation we've had with this particular issue and the court case and all those things, a simple phone call may have gotten to a place today, Madam Chair, where we are just here doing this on a consent agenda because he's already been apprised of what we're trying to accomplish and agrees with it. Maybe he doesn't, maybe he does, but at least that would get us somewhere. And then to address as you use the term, well, I don't want to get into that, but to address the challenges with the 2024, you've never answered that question clearly and concisely on why that happened, other than the richer may or may not have blocked us out of.
Excuse me, Mr.
Yes, ma'am,
Stewart.
I'm done, thank you.
To that point, Vice Chair Lesko needs to be.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to try to de-escalate this a bit, but I do want to address a couple of the things that Supervisor Stewart has said. First, Supervisor Stewart, you said none of the other board members spoke about item number 97. I, for myself, was directly speaking to item number 97.
You absolutely were.
Because it's about the resolution that we were going to vote on. And we got a letter from the attorney of Recorder Heap this morning, right before we were going to vote on it, and saying that basically if we vote on this, we're all criminals. And so are the temporary workers, and so on and so forth. Like, he's just going to prosecute everyone, apparently, that does anything. So trying to run elections. The other thing I would say, I have a difference of opinion with you, Supervisor Stewart, and we can have different opinions, is a simple phone call would have solved it. I wish a simple phone call would have solved it. We have tried this now for like a year and a half. As you know, last April of 2025, we thought we had an agreement with him. He texted both you and I in a group text saying, we're 95% there. There's only small little minor things that have to be worked out. So we thought we were there. He has, at one point, and I'm talking about Recorder Heap, it's been very difficult. I've been talking to the elections folks. It's been very difficult because they think they have an agreement with the Recorder and the Recorder staff. And they've talked to Sam Stone because Recorder Heap, quite frankly, said, that's my point person. I heard him because the chairwoman asked, okay, clarify, who are we supposed to talk to in your office? And I remember Recorder Heap specifically saying it was Sam Stone, his chief of staff. Well, then we communicated with Sam Stone. He came back with an email saying, yep, this is all good. You can do these election sites. You can do this. You can do whatever, the drop boxes, all this stuff. He said it's all good for this election for, I think he said the primary and the general in 2026. It was in a letter, an email. I saw it. He said, yep. And then we get a letter from Justin Heap himself saying, Sam Stone, who's his chief of staff, was an heir when he said that. Now, okay, so first of all, the person Recorder Heap told us we're supposed to speak to is his chief of staff, Sam Stone. Then Sam Stone responds and says, yes, I agree. He responds to Scott Jarrett, our election director, says, yep, I agree with this. And we thought, okay, we're set. We're making progress, folks. But then we get a letter from Recorder Heap saying, disregard what my chief of staff, Sam Stone, said. You can only, and only, he said, only speak to my attorney, James Rogers. Well, it is very difficult to operate if you can only talk to, if one time it says talk to my chief of staff, Sam Stone, you get an agreement, and then the next minute you're like, nope, what he said was wrong, you got to talk to my lawyer. It's just so difficult. And that's why I was really looking forward to Mr. Heap coming here today to answer some questions. He knew this was on the agenda. This was publicized yesterday. The staff has been working on these voting locations, for months now, I think, or, at least a month. I think more than a month, trying to get joint voting locations. And so it's not like some big surprise. And so, I wish that it could be solved by a phone call. But I just don't think that's realistic because it keeps changing all the time. And that's why I sincerely call on Recorder Heap to join us. I am willing to put in the hours and the effort to meet together, to iron this out in structured meetings. And I think they're going to have to be recorded so that people can't go back on their word on either side. They're going to have to be recorded so the public can see it for full transparency. And we're doing it on the behalf of the voters, not this turf war. Not this turf war like, I want to do this, I want to do this. No, we have to figure it out. We need election integrity. We need a smooth election. And we can't do it in this environment. And that's why I really wish Recorder Heap would have showed up and addressed this letter because it's just so frustrating.
Thank you. What I'd like to do at this point is ask Zach Shira and Scott Jarrett to come forward.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Stewart.
I think I still have the floor as, I think
No.
Supervisor Lesko had a point to that point.
No, she had comments, but did you have something else you wish to say?
I was still, okay, yes, ma'am. Debbie, I am grateful for our conversations.
We can have this one offline.
We can, I'm just leading into a deeper point.
You better get there.
Madam Chair, please.
Mr. Stewart, please.
We're all trying to be respectful here. I'd appreciate it if you did the same. Thank you.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Get to the point.
So the crux of this issue has come down to communication. And I agree that the James Rogers letter is somewhat egregious, right? I think it's very inflammatory. It certainly doesn't calm the conversation. But I will stick to what I said earlier, that if the conversations that I'm having with Justin, if the conversations that Debbie is having with Justin were had by the chair in order to create resolution for issues like this resolution that we're talking about today, I think we would have prevented that letter from happening in the first place. Thanks for your time, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Mr. Shira, Mr. Jarrett, what I am interested in having you discuss and board members go through is an outline of the work that we, the board, have done with the Recorder's Office, with his staff to carry out 5 elections since we took office, and more specifically, the meetings that took place after we passed our three-point resolution, where we actually did come to an agreement. One of the meetings that I attended, actually the very first one, was when you, Mr. Jarrett, were summoned to a meeting with Mr. Heap, and I attended as a fellow elected. And one of the things that I asked going forward is, Mr. Heap, I've never really learned what your election early voting policy is. Your legislative record says that you do not favor early voting. As you are aware from our resolution, the board favors a very robust early voting program. But he said, no, I'm just totally in favor of it. I favor it. So that was the meeting where we clarified the lines of communication between your office and the recorder's office. But a lot's happened since. We were working on voting sites. Can you speak to that?
So, Madam Chair, members of the board, I believe that meeting was on February 27th, the one that you're referring to, and we did record that meeting, and we do have a transcript of that meeting, and that was the point of contact that I was to work with at that point in time was Sam Stone, and I've worked daily, but many times over the course since that meeting on February 27th to gain agreement on how we were going to run the May jurisdictional election. That was election day was just yesterday. The upcoming primary elections and the general elections. Those details involved trying to secure early voting locations for the recorder's office. Right, we provided them the list of the locations that we had secured at that point in time, and then any additional ones that the recorder's office would like to add, and then coordinating for us going out and doing inspections of those locations, finalizing contracts of those locations, included coordinating how we'd be doing hiring and training for the early voting locations, as well as how those poll workers that we end up hiring will work at early voting locations, emergency voting locations, as well as on election day. It also included how, so there were separate meetings, and this was approved through Sam Stone, the recorder's chief of staff, when we are conducting elections that involve the cities, local cities and towns, and they're going to be joining the ballot, in which they're statutorily allowed to request to join the ballot when we have a primary election or a general election. We conduct something called a menu of service meetings. And those menu of service meetings go through in detail what contests they're going to have on the ballot. Are there candidate contests? What candidates are going to be on the ballot? Are there going to be any questions related on the ballot? What locations are they willing to provide? Are they wanting to offer a drop box? And there's also some information there that are really specific to the recorder's office, like the data that the recorder's office will be providing those jurisdictions. So we knew that those menu of service meetings had to happen, and we needed recorder's office representatives. We reached out to the recorder's office, let them know, and they appointed 2 individuals to attend those meetings. And in those meetings, dating all the way back to February, that's where drop boxes and these locations of drop boxes were discussed. Subsequent to those meetings, we had to have discussions about, well, how are we going to manage those drop boxes? So we, through our budget meetings, and we had a budget meeting just last month where I came before you all, presented something called an ELE1 budget for the elections department. The recorder's office also presented his ELE1 budget meeting. In those budget negotiation meetings, we discussed, well, how are we going to retrieve the ballots that are going to be coming from those drop boxes, whether they're the standalone drop boxes, the drop boxes that are at the city and town clerk's offices, or even at the early voting locations. And what we decided was to have the 2-member team that's established through the state statute, the Elections Procedures Manual, and have that be bipartisan, and have 1 representative from the elections department and 1 representative from the recorder's office. And so we both then went about putting together our budgets, and the recorder sat here and presented that budget with that understanding that we would have these bipartisan teams. So the recorder's office was aware of that we were going to be having these standalone drop boxes through those menus of service meetings back in February, and then the process for which we would be retrieving the items from those ballot boxes through the budget meetings. So he had far in advance notice that we would be offering these drop boxes.
So then the question becomes, at some point in there, Judge Blaney issued his ruling, and you continued to operate under the ruling and our resolution. I saw countless emails where you reached out to clarify, codify, gain understanding. Are those emails available for board members and the public's consumption?
Madam Chair, yes, all of those emails are retained. They are public records. I'm happy to forward them on to the board members, or if any member of the public records request them.
To that point,
Yes.
Madam Chair, I would like to see if Mr. Stewart will recant his allegation that you sprung this upon the recorder in the last couple of days.
Madam
Okay,
Chair,
we will have
at
that
point-
conversation another time. Right now, we're taking testimony from staff. Mr. Shira, do we have a website that is a repository of documents, legal and otherwise, pertaining to the lawsuit that Mr. Heap initiated against the board this past year? And can you provide that for the public?
Yes, Madam Chair, we do have a website that takes us through the timeline and the history of our initial negotiations with Recorder Heap when he took office in 2025, up through the lawsuit that occurred in June of 2025 through today. We have made it a repository for letters back and forth between this board and Mr. Heap for legal filings, and we are in the process of updating it with the few letters that were exchanged within the last 2 weeks that impacted the Tempe election yesterday.
To that point, Madam Chair.
Mr. Stewart.
Thank you. So as it relates to communications about the resolution itself, right, this finalization and this formal process moving forward, those communications happened in the last 2 weeks, or they happened today? I've heard 2 different.
Which resolution? The one on the,
The one that we're
on the agenda?
supposed to be talking about today. right now.
97, and
Yes,
that we
ma'am.
are talking about.
Right.
Madam Chair, Supervisor Stewart, as we explained in our separate meeting earlier today, we did not have staff conversation specific to the resolution item that we had on the agenda today because it has been advice of staff and this board that the board has sole authority over ballot boxes and their
Madam Chair,
deployment.
what I'm hearing.
Excuse me, may you finish the answer, please?
Sorry, thank you.
So essentially, staff would have had no reason to coordinate on the actual resolution, nor its putting on the agenda. However, the underlying planning, the deployment of resources, the agreement on how to hire staff, everything that goes into administering those drop boxes jointly, as we have agreed with the recorder's office, that communication did occur before the agenda item today.
Mr. Stewart.
Thank you, and that's fantastic. That's what I've understood from the beginning, is that staff has been communicating with one another regularly. This particular issue, and to address Supervisor Galvin's point, is that the actual language and discussion about the resolution and codifying our move forward was not communicated, and I confirmed that with the recorder, I confirmed that with members of his staff, that this particular item moved forward very quickly, and they were not apprised of what we were voting on, or that this was being forwarded. I'm not arguing that we have, or not arguing. I'm not saying that staff wasn't communicating and they weren't involved early. I'm talking specifically about item 97 and the timelines and the communication breakdown that happened between there. So my question is, Madam Chair, do we have any emails speaking about the resolution that happened before yesterday?
Pardon me, if I may intervene with
Yes,
a
ma'am.
different timeline. As Mr. Jarrett explained, we were going right straight along. Communications between staff, meetings between staff, recorder and elections and county manager. And then the early part of May is when the wheels fell off. On May 6th, Mr. Heap wrote to our county manager to say we cannot communicate with the recorder staff. On May 18th, Mr. Heap's attorney threatened to sanction us and hold us in contempt for run-of-the-mill election operations issues. On May 19th, Mr. Heap wrote to our county manager to say we cannot get legal advice from the county attorney. During that same time period, Mr. Heap's attorney, through Mr. Heap, wrote to us and said, you can't, don't talk to anybody in my staff, or whatever they approve basically doesn't count. We're taking it back. And the only thing that can be approved is through me via my attorney. And then today, Mr. Heap's attorney wrote to say if we accept ballots from voters the way we always have, we and our staff will be prosecuted. So to your point, Mr. Stewart, we were communicating. We even had a joint executive session meeting related to an issue in the recorder's office on Monday that we are working with him and supporting him related to procurement. But the idea that simply a phone call or reaching out, we're prohibited. You are prohibited from reaching out to recorder staff. And when county manager reached out, I think it was yesterday, the day before, about some issues at the Tempe elections site, she had her hand slapped and told no. So we have been trying, Mr. Stewart.
Madam Chair.
Sir.
Thank you. I don't disagree that we've been communicating. What I'm asking specifically about, and you have not addressed, is when the communication about this particular resolution, item number 97, was presented to Justin Heap for his review and for his collaboration, as we've all agreed that we should be doing, before it came to this board for a vote.
Mr. Stewart, I just addressed it, and I'm sorry.
What day did you say?
I'm sorry if my answer was too long. We were prohibited from talking to Mr. Heap. However,
Now it's Mr. Heap. You said before it was staff. I'm just trying to get clarification.
communications were cut off by Mr. Heap and by his attorney. Now this is, I know, you have from day one.
Right.
But in the meantime, what I'd like to put forward is that good communication is precluded and replaced with letters from his attorney threatening us, threatening our staff. So I could have subpoenaed Mr. Heap today. I did not. I still can. I made the offer for him to come down and meet with us and answer our questions. And he said, well, what are those questions? I said, well, there's 4 board members. I'm not going to begin to imagine what the questions might be. But please help us understand this letter from your attorney. I clarified at an earlier meeting that Mr. Jarrett and county manager and I attended that, in fact, Mr. Heap supposedly supports early voting. He very, very strongly supports it. His legislative record does not, but he does. But then the actions taken today raise that into question in my mind. And I will point out that mostly due to the gracious auspices of my vice chair, we continue to act in good faith. Today, we approved an appropriation for IT. Sometime back, we approved an appropriation for signature verification stations. It was a time-sensitive appropriation. Our staff has worked together up until this point. And as a matter of fact, the vice chair and I just sent a letter to Mr. Heap asking to meet publicly to see if we could come to some resolution. Where I'm standing at this point is, who is running the recorder's office? It's not the elected official. It's not Justin Heap. It's James Rogers. And everything that we do must be approved by James Rogers. And everything that Mr. Heap or his staff do that countermands the way Mr. Rogers thinks it needs to go gets called back. And that puts us in a very, very perilous position, which is why we are here today. Vice Chair Lesko.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like staff to explain why we need to vote on this resolution and the timeliness, and I think that's why we're here. And we've all been working on this for over a year now, trying to have resolutions with the recorder's office, because I believe both the recorder and all of us here want the elections to run smoothly, and we want election integrity. But there's obviously disagreements. And so my understanding is the reason that we need to approve these voting centers is we have to run an election. We have to run an election in July, and then again in November, and all of these things take time. And so what I've heard you say, staff, is that you've been meeting with the recorder staff all along. I saw the email where you got a response from the chief of staff of the recorder saying, yep, I agree with these different things, go forward on the 2026 elections with this understanding. And then we got a letter from Justin Heap himself to, I think it was Jen, I'm not sure, was it to you, Jen, saying disregard, or he said he sent it in air, Sam Stone sent it in air, and you can only talk to James Rogers. So I guess I'd like you to explain, like, if we just waited around and tried to, come to some kind of, like, get the blessing of James Rogers or Justin Heap on this election plan, which is our duty, right? This is the election plan for the elections department and our statutory duties. I mean, would we ever get it done?
So, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, we have always published the list of the voting locations so the voters can be aware of what their options to participate, if they want to participate in person in an election, 45 days in advance of the election. So that's the purpose of having the meeting scheduled at this point in time, and to get the board to adopt the resolution so then we can communicate to the public, the voters, on where they can participate in the election. But there's other logistics that need to be completed. The political parties need to be able to recruit political party observers that go out to those voting locations. I've been requested from the political parties, where are the locations going to be? Well, I can't provide them that list until I have the final adopted locations. So that's the purpose. Also, as you mentioned, statutorily, these are statutory functions of the Board of Supervisors. Statute is clear that the board has to, if we're going to be using vote centers, the board through a resolution has to adopt the vote centers that will be used. If there's going to be emergency voting locations, the board has to adopt through a resolution the use of emergency voting locations. Also, state statute and the Elections Procedures Manual is clear that drop boxes are under the Board of Supervisors, at least the locations of those drop boxes. And I want to read, I want to read 2 statutes for you. One is where in state statute it points out that we're to follow the Elections Procedures Manual as it relates to drop boxes. So this is 16452, Rules, Instructions, and Procedures Manual. Approval of manual, field check, and review of systems, violation, and classification. And Section A of that says, after consultation with each county board of supervisors or other officer in charge of elections, the Secretary of State shall prescribe rules to achieve and maintain the maximum degree of correctness, impartiality, uniformity, and efficiency on the procedures for early voting, and procedures distributing, collecting, counting, tabulating, and storing ballots. Drop boxes fall under those categories. And then within the Elections Procedures Manual, this is Chapter 2, and under Chapter 2H, so it's on page 77, starts at 77 and carries on to 78. It says, a ballot drop-off location or drop box shall be located in a secure location, such as inside or in front of a federal, state, local, or tribal government building, in coordination with jurisdictions. All ballot drop-off locations and drop boxes shall be approved by the Board of Supervisors or their designee. So that's what this resolution is bringing forward today, for us to be able to finalize the vote centers that will be used on Election Day, the emergency vote centers that will be available for voters if they have an issue that prevents them from voting on Election Day, and the drop boxes that will be available to voters for the primary election.
Thank you.
Thank you. For the record, and I will not give Recorder Heap airtime, he responded to my invitation in writing to the effect that my attorney has already provided the board with a detailed letter outlining my legal objections to the proposed resolution concerning ballot drop box locations and management authority. I will distribute that, make it available for the growing supply of documents. What's that website, sir?
Madam Chair, if you go to Maricopa.vote, and actually, I can bring it up here in just a second.
I will put this letter on file there as well. He's basically saying what my attorney said is what I think, which is you're all convicted felons if you go forward, or will be convicted felons if you go forward with this, and so will your staff. So, well, in his mind.
Not convicted.
Not convicted,
in his
but
mind,
yeah. Is Class 5 the least worst? It's the worst. I always got those mixed up. Everyone gets so frustrated with me.
Madam Chair, we'll work on a shorter link, but if you go to maricopa.gov and type in elections dispute into the search bar, it'll be the first tab that comes up.
The other thing, let's go forward, and what I would ask, is there a motion to approve item number 97, resolution for the 2026 primary election? And before I ask for that motion, I wanted to double check with Brooke that we've got the proper resolution on file, and we're good to go with the motion.
Madam Chair, if I may, just to clarify, and then Brooke may speak if she needs to
Please.
correct me. But the resolution that I read to item number 97 is the unaltered resolution as attached to the agenda. The amendments that I stated to the agenda earlier at the beginning of the meeting, those changes are only to the agenda language.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now it's clear. So sometimes it takes two of you, but you get it done. So I would entertain a motion, please, regarding item number 97.
I have a question. Should the motion be that we want to approve the amended resolution?
No, because it was just the agenda item language. The resolution itself was appropriate.
Already has the language.
Yeah, we're good. Or as stated
Okay,
or as
thank
read.
you.
I'm sorry.
Thank you for that
Didn't went
clarification.
on either.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve item number 97.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Madam Chair?
Second.
Mr. Stewart.
So, Brooke, I'm not sure how this works from parliamentary procedure, but I'd like to make a motion to amend this particular resolution, which was issued prior to the second. Can you help me with that, please? Excuse me.
Madam Chair, Supervisor Stewart, members of the board, my understanding is that there's a motion to approve item 97. There's a second on that motion. Any requests to amend the motion as stated would need a first and a second, and that would be disposed of. And then either the amended motion, if that were to be approved, would be considered, or the original motion, if the request to amend was denied, would be considered.
Mr. Stewart.
Madam Chair, thank you very much. In the spirit of collaboration and communication, I move that we amend this resolution by inserting the following in paragraph 3 after the words Exhibit C. This list will be final unless the recorder objects to any of the drop box locations by June 1st, 2026, in which case the board agrees to reconvene on or before June 4th to reconsider the recorder's objections or additions. So, if you'd like some more explanation on the motion, I'd be happy to share.
I don't need an explanation. What I would need is a second.
Madam Chair, could I ask Supervisor Stewart to
Clarify?
reread the amendment and explain it?
I'd be happy to. Thank you, Supervisor Lesko, Madam Chair. I move to amend the resolution by inserting the following paragraph in paragraph 3 after the words Exhibit C. This list will be final unless the recorder objects to any of the drop box locations by June 1st, 2026, in which case the board agrees to reconvene on or before June 4th to consider the recorder's objections or additions. So the explanation is that in the spirit of collaboration, that if the recorder who has already worked with staff and his staff to approve these locations, it sometime over the next 10 days decides that he's not comfortable with a location or has an opportunity to add another drop box somewhere and can collaborate with the elections team, that he has the opportunity to do that. So it just adds a little caveat in there to help move this forward and bring the recorder into the fold so that we start moving forward together on these issues.
Madam Chair, I'd like to hear from staff on the doability of that, I guess.
Respectfully, that motion has not been seconded.
Madam Chair, can I lobby for a second so we can have discussion?
You may lobby.
If I could get a second, we can discuss it further, but it's something that we discussed with staff upstairs after your executive session meeting. That might be a resolution that makes everyone happy, including myself and the recorder.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Madam Chair, this is tough because the recorder's not here. I wish the recorder would have came so
Is
he could
that a
answer the
second,
question.
Vice Chair, or
No,
at
it
this
is-
point?
No, it's,
Okay, motion dies for lack of a second. We're back to our original motion, and what I would like to do, it's been moved, it's been seconded. I would like to conduct a roll call vote, and each board member, either at the time they vote or following the vote, can explain. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Supervisor Stewart.
Thank you, and thank you, Madam Chair. I'll make a comment before my vote. By statute, we have to approve a resolution to use vote centers, to use emergency vote centers, and to ultimately put drop boxes out in the field for the public, which we're going to do. This is a formality. In many cases, it's been done for, 5 elections now? Excuse me, I'm getting ranking.
No.
Doing my best, Rubio. So my vote is going to be yes under the under statutory authority that we do need to approve this to move forward. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Supervisor Galvin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll explain my vote on yes. The experiences we've had with the recorder's office has just frankly been a roller coaster. Every single time we think we're in a good spot with them, then they send us careening in different directions, left, right, up, down. And as Supervisor Lesko pointed out, we directly negotiated with Justin Heap on a new shared services agreement in April 2025. Everything that happened before that was actually irrelevant and a moot point because yes, every single time there's a new recorder, frankly, there's a new shared services agreement. So whatever happened previously really has no bearing or impact on his office or how we do things because different parties negotiate. And all I know is that I was sitting across from him and I had to deal with him. And then he disappeared for 5 weeks and then he filed a lawsuit. This has been happening over and over and over again. We have heard from today, and we've heard it at every single meeting related to elections, that our staff sits with the recorder's office staff and works with them on a myriad bunch of issues putting an election together. This is like putting the Super Bowl together. You don't do it in one day. You work on it every single day for years. And the day after an election, you're working on the next election. They never take a day off. And they've been working with employees in the recorder's office for years as well. They have counterparts at the recorder's office. This notion that the language of a resolution just came at the last second, oh my gosh, ridiculous. Everyone at the recorder's office knew what was coming. Everyone at the recorder's office knew what this was about, but they pull this political gamesmanship where they hide behind an attorney who then threatens criminal prosecution of not only elected officials, but staff and volunteers. And frankly, if anyone here in this dais hasn't yet condemned that, there's something wrong with them. Stand up for the volunteers. Stand up for the workers. We signed up for this. They didn't sign up for it. It's absolutely outrageous to write a letter at the 11th hour, right as the Board of Supervisors is about to convene, threatening criminal penalties for running elections, for having locations for people to vote and to drop off their ballots in our constitutional republic. I am sick of this. I am absolutely sick of this. And you know what the problem is? We've heard, oh yeah, this is the way to bring them back into the fold. They're going to keep doing it. They are cooking up more games, more schemes, more capers. Get ready. The show is on. And the Justin Heap show is rolling on, and they're laughing. But I'm not laughing. Because you know who's getting hurt in the process? The voters. They don't care about this inside baseball stuff. They don't care about this crap. They just want to know when they show up to vote or when they mail their ballot, the election's going to work out well. They find out who won or lost, and they move on with their lives. But we are stuck in this hamster wheel of the 2020 election. That is the basis of it. Over and over and over again. And someone has to call out the recorder and say, cut it out. And I have seen 4 people on this dais consistently tell the recorder to cut it out. That's good enough for me at this point. 4. But you cannot be carrying water for the recorder and expect these games to continue and think it's funny or worry about your own political hide. I don't worry about my political hide. I'm worrying about you, the voter that's watching this. And I'm voting yes because we're going to move on. We're going to do the job. We're going to work with staff. We're going to work with volunteers. And if anyone tries to put handcuffs on these volunteers, the 4 of us will be the first ones to step in front of them and say, take us. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Vice Chair Lesko.
Wow, I have to go after that. That was quite the impassioned speech. I'm going to explain my vote, Madam Chair. It's very important that we vote on this item. It's very important that we let the public know where the voting centers are going to be. I mean, I've already had people in my district ask me where the voting center is going to be. And so our election staff needs to know this to plan. And it's very important we do this. I was surprised by the letter today. I mean, a lot of things have gone on. But this letter from James Rogers today was really over the top. Really over the top. Threatening to, criminalize part-time election workers that are picking up ballots at a drop box. I mean, come on. So once again, Recorder Heap, I call on you. Let's sit down. As was announced just a few minutes ago, the chairwoman and myself, the vice chair, are willing to try this again. We've tried it many times, but I am a hopeful person. And so let's sit down. Let's have public meetings or recorded publicly meetings so we can hammer out our differences. And we're not doing it for any other reason except to run a smooth, fair election so that we have election integrity. And that's why, Recorder Heap, I hope that you will answer our letter inviting you to these structured meetings, and let's hammer this out for the benefit of the voters, and I vote aye.
Supervisor Gallardo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. May I explain my vote?
Please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We are, 60, tomorrow would be the 60-day mark before the primary election. This is a vote that has been taken by this board since, as far as I can remember, I started, like I said, in 88. The Board of Supervisors always cast the resolution to establish the polling sites at that time. Now it's vote centers and drop-off locations. This is a vote that has taken all the time right before an election. But I don't recall ever waiting this long to actually make this type of vote. We continue to see the gamesmanship by Justin Heap. This latest threatening letter is just on top of the bucket here. It's just another one. I truly believe, Madam Chair, that Mr. Heap is purposely trying to compromise this election. He wants this election to fail. He wants it. He's doing everything he can to make this election fail, just so he can stand in front of very few people that support him to say, look, I told you so. But it's not the board. It's not our elections department. And it's not some of the folks in the recorder's office. But it is his election. It is his leadership team. It is him. I really do believe they are way out of their scope of knowledge when it comes to conducting these elections. Usually when you do have a new county recorder, they surround themselves with the best and brightest that understand elections, that have done this before. He has not done that. He has surrounded himself by political hacks, let's be honest. Folks that just want to tweet stuff out, that are negative comments, continue to cast conspiracies and false statements and throw rocks at us. That's what he has around him. So, Madam Chair, I do support this motion. We need to move forward. As has been stated by a couple of my colleagues already, it's important for us to make sure we have an election that is safe, secure, accurate, and transparent, that every voter has the right to cast their ballots. Most fundamental right. I say it all the time. It's most fundamental right. Everyone should have free access to the ballot box and be able to choose the candidates of their choice. But when you have a county recorder who is he is blatantly trying to disrupt this election. He's doing his best to make sure this election fails. He wants it. This is what he wants. When he got elected, he never intended to make sure our elections were safe, secure, transparent. He's never wanted to try to create an election process that is fair and transparent. It was never his intention. His intention was to try to make the 2020 election a failure. And I don't believe I'm going to stand, I know I will, stand with him to try to make that happen. We have a task to do. It's a task that this board has done for years. For years. I've been here 10 years, going on 11 years. We've always made this vote. We've always worked in collaboration with the recorder to make sure that we have polling sites and drop-off sites that are fairly spread out throughout Maricopa County. And then we vote and we give all the resources and tools and support we need to our professional staff to do a very difficult job. I've been in their shoes. I've worked there for 14 years. I know how hard it is. But we need a partner on the other side that is just as much involved, just as much wanting to make sure we have an election that is safe, secure, and accurate, that is successful. But when you have a partner on the other side that is not wanting to have a successful election, it makes it very difficult. So, Madam Chair, I am proud to vote aye on this motion, and I look forward to a very successful 2026 primary election.
Chair Brophy McGee.
Thank you. Quickly to comment, first of all, thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your interest. It's important. We do understand, this board, that the voters' only concern is to be able to vote confidently, not worry about it, not think about it, just you guys figure it out. And that's been the message I've gotten from day one. And it's not about they did this, we did that. No. Vote confidently. And that is our aim and that is our goal, and I will stop at nothing less. I also understand from many years of sometimes really rocky, rough service in office that we can't choose who the voters send us. So what I can say to Mr. Heap, we're stuck with each other. Yeah, the voters elected you, but they elected us too. Now work with us. I will admit, because I am a human and I have lots of human feelings, that I'm tired of extending a hand in good faith and drawing back a stump. But in the caveat that we must work with who the voters send us, I will continue forward because it's not about me, it's not about Mr. Heap, it's about our voters. My final message before my vote is to say this: Mr. Heap, you are the recorder. Start leading your office. When you make a decision, and you've made some good decisions, or at least somebody in your office has, stick with it, go with it. I was in the room with Mr. Galvin a year ago when we got to a place on a working SSA for which you largely dictated every single term. And I saw, you liked it, you texted my colleagues, Ms. Lesko, Mr. Stewart, and said, we're 95% of the way there, and then you went dark. That's because you went and you talked to somebody, is my guess. When somebody said, no, you're not going to do that, you're going to go back and do this. Mr. Heap, you are the elected recorder. Start leading your office. When you make a decision, stick to it. Quit walking it back. Quit directing your staff to do one thing and then undirecting them. And quit lashing out at our election staff. We can get there and we can do this. And I'm going to assume, for the sake of my belief that everyone has a soul and in human decency, we want good things for our constituents, for our voters. Do your job, Mr. Heap. Little comment aside from the deranged, threatening letter from your attorney this morning saying don't do this or you will all be arrested and charged with felonies. All you had to do, Mr. Heap, is say, yeah, I understand where we're headed. Can we amend it? Can we amend it? It didn't take hellfire and damnation from Mr. Recorder James Rogers at this point to say, yeah, if you need to change something, as long as we get it done by X date, then reach out. We can amend the resolution. But instead you have to come in guns a-blazing, scaring everybody half to death, completely discrediting you, completely discrediting your unethical attorney, completely tearing apart the voter confidence you profess to support, that you profess to be the champion of, and do this. It should have been a consent item. It wasn't because of your actions and those people who guide you, or I think, tell you what to do. Stop it. Do your job. And with that, Madam Clerk, I vote aye.
Madam Chair, we have a unanimous roll call vote with 5 ayes.
Okay. And having completed the business of the board with thanks to my colleagues, this meeting is finally adjourned.
Thank you.